Out of the 3 women and 3 men, you have a makeup of 5 Caucasians and one black, younger black gentleman. The alternate is black. Again, like I told you a little bit earlier, just the waste of taxpayers' dollars for this misdemeanor seems a little egregious. As you see, we were in there all day long. It's going to be interesting. Court starts at 9 o'clock tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see the outcome. But by no way do we want the outcome of this misdemeanor case to have any kind of reflection on the overall ball, no matter what that is. If the Johnsons hopefully do not face any kind of punishment, then of course the fight still pushes on. If the Johnsons unfortunately face punishment or get dealt punishment, whatever that is, then the fight still pushes on. You have some that feel like the makeup is not a true reflection of your peers. But hey, we're in Lowndes County. I honestly didn't expect an equal amount of makeup or an equal makeup race. But we'll see. So as it stands.
I know you said that you don't think that this is necessarily equal makeup, and then you wouldn't mind telling me why that is, and then also, do you think that the Johnsons are in court today because of the magnitude of the other cases that have come ahead? Do you think that's why this is being pursued?
Well, that's a very, very good question, because I know a couple of weeks ago when I was here for the march, there was a tone or undertone as if the protest was going to be a non-peaceful protest, and I was even asked questions concerning the protest all around the country, New York, Los Angeles, and Cleveland, Atlanta. Could the Johnsons be used as making an example of what happens when they do these demonstrations? I think that's a very fair question. I don't think there's any way to prove it, but I can only result back to in Atlanta when we have cases of civil disobedience all the time. Now, I know each case is individual, each case is its own, but I've never seen the intention of a misdemeanor charge, and I'm not making light of misdemeanors, but when you know that this family has lost a child, we know that. You know that it was a tragic situation. We know that. We know that currently it is under federal investigation and has been there for the past 14 months. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because the family has the right for suspicion, and that suspicion is what drove them before the federal investigation to actually conduct this civil disobedience. So I personally think it's extremely harsh, considering that after their arrest came a full-blown federal investigation. So it's a very fair question to ask if they are being targeted as a way to make an example for those not to participate in civil disobedience when they feel like the system isn't working.
So do you think they will be able to get a fair day in court? We've got a new judge, this time around, but do you think they'll be able to get a fair day in court with that sort of jury makeup?
Yeah, where'd he come from, too?
Thomas County.
Yeah, well, that's being facetious, right? I mean, yes, when they needed to get a judge, they got one, right? Listen, the judges that recused themselves said they did so, right? Or the one judge spoke for all of them, saying that, they didn't feel like they could get a fair trial. I'm not a sitting judge, so I have to go with that last statement. I mean, ever since getting on board with the Kendrick Johnson movement, it has been clear to me that things have been done in a slanted fashion, in a biased fashion. Again, I got to revert back to when this case was closed. Stamped, signed, sealed, and delivered, closed. Accidental. And since then, We are now 14 months in the federal investigation, so you ask me, do I think we can get a fair shake here? My blunt answer would be no, because each time that opportunity presents itself, the players never seem to really step up to the game in order to make that fair trial and that unbiased trial happen here in this jurisdiction. So I guess my short answer is no.
And are you, now that the jurors have been seated, are you happy with the selection or not?
It's difficult to say I'm happy, considering that all of the defendants are African American, and you have one African American out of 6 on the jury. Now, does that automatically mean that the Johnsons are not going to receive a fair shake? No, it doesn't automatically mean that. But there is a line saying that a jury is basically a jury of your peers. Peers doesn't necessarily mean race, but
get a fair and impartial jury here in Lowndes County where this whole thing really happened, or do you feel like maybe it would be better if this was taken, out of Lowndes County, maybe to the northern part of the state, or somewhere where this wasn't such a simple part of everyday life?
Right up from Atlanta, I love I think the latest judge to recuse himself, and also his colleagues, and stating his reason for doing so is that there could not be a impartial, unbiased trial here. I know you're asking me about jurors, but I think the chief officers of the court have basically put it in black and white that they don't feel this is a correct jurisdiction in order to receive justice as far as a fair trial.
And were you surprised that it took a whole day to see the jurors review?
This is the longest process. This is, to me, I think, a waste of taxpayers' dollars. I'm not belittling misdemeanor charges, but we're talking about a misdemeanor here. As I stated earlier, we're talking about a misdemeanor that came right before a full-blown federal investigation. The misdemeanor that the Johnson family is charged with came as a direct result of them feeling like this sheriff's department did not give them justice. So they took to civil disobedience to make their point heard. And again, right after that, the federal investigation is full-blown. I think that should weigh heavily on this city. Why waste the taxpayers' dollars? We've been in here since all day long, sir. You just pointed that out. I've never had to sit through a civil disobedience misdemeanor charge for all of these hours in the jury selection process. I mean, I don't know if they're being made an example of. There's a lot of protests that's going on across the nation with the Black Lives Matter movement. We feel like Kendrick's name deserves to be in there. No, he wasn't killed by police officers, but we have been claiming a botched investigation from Jump Street. So could this be an attempt by the city to send a message across the nation that here in Valdosta, you're not able to participate in civil disobedience, no matter if your child is dead? We'll haul you in court. We'll take your time, and ultimately maybe take your money too. I've never seen anything like it.
And do you feel like maybe the community this has been going, the Johnsons have been kind of asking for an investigation and protesting their son's death for well over a year now. Do you feel like maybe in some ways the community is kind of gotten tired of it, so to speak, and then they're trying to kind of go this route to say, look, this needs to stop now? Do you feel like they're kind of making things in that sense?
No, not in that sense. And it was 2 years on the 10th, and there was a huge celebration in the life of Kendrick Johnson on the 10th. I know this city is tired of the Johnson family. Let's just be honest. Valdosta's got a dirty history that started way before Kendrick Johnson. I know this city is tired of the Johnson family, but you got to, even if you don't like what they're doing, you've got to respect their tenacity and their stick-to-itness. And again, we have a full-blown federal investigation. We have a sheriff's department that in the past 2 months has been conducting interviews on past Lowndes County High School wrestlers and students, but yet has not stated to the public that the case is open. You know, I've said before, if you stamp your case closed, then what are you doing interviews? And if you're doing those interviews, which we know you are, then you owe it to the family and the community to state that this case is reopened. So, honestly, with the full-blown federal investigation, it's hard for me to give any credence, any kind of respect to the local departments here, because we see that there has been new development after new development, some which we cannot share. But they can get tired of the Johnson's family all that they want, but they really need to make sure that their ducks are in a row, because a federal investigation doesn't just mean finding out the killers of Kendrick Johnson. It means finding out all that were involved.
And the Johnson family, were they emotional? Did they get emotional at times? I mean, what was kind of their demeanor through this whole process?
No, they weren't emotional. They've got a great team of attorneys, actually a political team as well, a team of activists, a team of community leaders. That, we have been prepping for this day. We have helped them prep for this day. So I think under the conditions that their son is dead, they have no idea who did it. There's a full-blown investigation. I think their demeanor was pretty upbeat for a family who's still in mourning. Their demeanor, their tone, their personality, they're just ready to get this over with. Because again, this is peanuts compared to what's coming. So.
And are you confident that they can ultimately prevail and get a verdict in their favor?
For this particular case?
Yes.
That's a hard call, man. I mean, we just stated that, this could possibly be a message being sent by the city. If this message is being sent by the city, then I don't think it would end positively for the Johnsons. Some would think that the 6 jurors, 5 being white, 1 being black, is another message sent to the city. Sent from the city. So we'll just have to see. I'm a firm believer in this. No matter what happens here tomorrow, it don't have nothing to do with justice for Kendrick Johnson. That's a fact.
And ultimately, what would you like, if the verdict comes down and the Johnson, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, the Johnsons receive some sort of penalty, be it monetary or something like that. What would you like to see, the community do, or what kind of action would you like to see if we get to that point?
Well, just let me say this. The judge made a comment saying, of course, that the jurors, are not to watch the news or to read the paper, and that's understandable. He made a comment saying, watch your national news, not your local news. Well, I think somebody's got to let him know that this is a national case. So what would I like to see if the Johnsons face punishment or get handed down punishment? I would like to see every camera lens turned on the city of Valdosta, shaming this city for having the nerve to punish a family that we know has lost their child. Whether you agree with how Kendrick died or not, you know that their child is gone. You know that they sent their child to school, he did not return. Whether you agree with how he died or not, we know that the Johnson's family participated in civil disobedience. And again, whether you agree with how he died or not, we know that after that act of civil disobedience, U.S. Attorney Michael Moore out of the Middle District of Georgia picked this case up as a full-blown investigation. That means something. If there was no activity after this civil disobedience, then my voice might be a little softer. But to know that this family has been consistently protesting out in front of this particular building, to know that when they did this act, the case was closed, and after that, it was opened on a federal level, that means something. So for all of those that point the finger and chastise this family, sit back and look at the timeline in this particular case. If nothing was there, it would have been dead a long time ago. So I applaud the Johnson family. I applaud everybody that's involved. I hope that they do not receive any type of punishment. But again, no matter what happens here tomorrow, it don't change the main goal, and that's to find out what happened to Kendrick Johnson and make all of those that were responsible held accountable.
That's all I got. So, bottom line, are you, now that the jurors have been seated, are you happy with the selection or not?
It's difficult to say I'm happy, considering that all of the defendants are African American, and you have one African American out of 6 on the jury. Now, does that automatically mean that the Johnsons are not going to receive a fair shake? No, it doesn't automatically mean that. But there is a line saying that a jury is basically a jury of your peers. Peers doesn't necessarily mean race, but
get a fair and impartial jury here in Lowndes County where this whole thing really happened, or do you feel like maybe it would be better if this was taken, out of Lowndes County, maybe to the northern part of the state, or somewhere where this wasn't such a simple part of everyday life?
Right up from Atlanta, I'd love for I think the latest judge to recuse himself, and also his colleagues, and stating his reason for doing so is that there could not be a impartial, unbiased trial here. I know you're asking me about jurors, but I think the chief officers of the court have basically put it in black and white that they don't feel this is a correct jurisdiction in order to receive justice as far as a fair trial.
And were you surprised that it took the whole day to see the jurors review?
This is the longest process. This is, to me, I think, a waste of taxpayers' dollars. I'm not belittling misdemeanor charges, but we're talking about a misdemeanor here. As I stated earlier, we're talking about a misdemeanor that came right before a full-blown federal investigation. The misdemeanor that the Johnson family is charged with came as a direct result of them feeling like this sheriff's department did not give them justice. So they took to civil disobedience to make their point heard. And again, right after that, the federal investigation is full-blown. I think that should weigh heavily on this city. Why waste the taxpayers' dollars? We've been in here since all day long, sir. You just pointed that out. I've never had to sit through a civil disobedience misdemeanor charge for all of these hours in the jury selection process. I mean, I don't know if they're being made an example of. There's a lot of protests that's going on across the nation with the Black Lives Matter movement. We feel like Kendrick's name deserves to be in there. No, he wasn't killed by police officers, but we have been claiming a botched investigation from Jump Street. So could this be an attempt by the city to send a message across the nation that here in Valdosta, you're not able to participate in civil disobedience, no matter if your child is dead? We'll haul you in court, we'll take your time, and ultimately maybe take your money too? I've never seen anything like it.
And do you feel like, maybe the community is, this has been going, the Johnsons have been kind of asking for an investigation and protesting their son's death for well over a year now. Do you feel like maybe in some ways the community is kind of, gotten tired of it, so to speak, and that they're trying to kind of go this route to say, look, this needs to stop now? Do you feel like they're kind of making things out in that sense?
No, not in that sense. And it was 2 years on the 10th, and there was a huge celebration in the life of Kendrick Johnson on the 10th. I know this city is tired of the Johnson family. Let's just be honest. Valdosta's got a dirty history that started way before Kendrick Johnson. I know this city is tired of the Johnson family, but you got to, even if you don't like what they're doing, you've got to respect their tenacity and their stick-to-itness. And again, we have a full-blown federal investigation. We have a sheriff's department that in the past 2 months has been conducting interviews on past Lowndes County High School wrestlers and students, but yet has not stated to the public that the case is open. You know, I've said before, if you stamp your case closed, then what are you doing interviews? And if you're doing those interviews, which we know you are, then you owe it to the family and the community to state that this case is reopened. So, honestly, with the full-blown federal investigation, it's hard for me to give any credence, any kind of respect to the local departments here, because we see that there has been new development after new development, some which we cannot share. But they can get tired of the Johnson's family all that they want, but they really need to make sure that their ducks are in a row, because a federal investigation doesn't just mean finding out the killers of Kendrick Johnson. It means finding out all that were involved.
And the Johnson family, were they emotional? Did they get emotional at times? I mean, what was kind of their demeanor through this whole process?
No, they weren't emotional. They've got a great team of attorneys, actually a political team as well, a team of activists, a team of community leaders. That, we have been prepping for this day. We have helped them prep for this day. So I think under the conditions that their son is dead, they have no idea who did it. There's a full-blown investigation. I think their demeanor was pretty upbeat for a family who's still in mourning. Their demeanor, their tone, their personality, they're just ready to get this over with. Because again, this is peanuts compared to what's coming. So.
And are you confident that they can ultimately prevail and get a verdict in their favor?
For this particular case?
Yes.
That's a hard call, man. I mean, we just stated that, this could possibly be a message being sent by the city. If this message is being sent by the city, then I don't think it would end positively for the Johnsons. Some would think that the 6 jurors, 5 being white, 1 being black, is another message sent to the city. Sent from the city. So we'll just have to see. I'm a firm believer in this. No matter what happens here tomorrow, it don't have nothing to do with justice for Kendrick Johnson. That's a fact.
And ultimately, what would you like, if the verdict comes down and the Johnson, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, the Johnsons receive some sort of penalty, be it monetary or something like that. What would you like to see, the community do, or what kind of action would you like to see if we get to that point?
Well, just let me say this. The judge made a comment saying, of course, that the jurors, are not to watch the news or to read the paper, and that's understandable. He made a comment saying, watch your national news, not your local news. Well, I think somebody's got to let him know that this is a national case. So what would I like to see if the Johnsons face punishment or get handed down punishment? I would like to see every camera lens turned on the city of Valdosta, shaming this city for having the nerve to punish a family that we know has lost their child. Whether you agree with how Kendrick died or not, you know that their child is gone. You know that they sent their child to school, he did not return. Whether you agree with how he died or not, we know that the Johnson's family participated in civil disobedience. And again, whether you agree with how he died or not, we know that after that act of civil disobedience, U.S. Attorney Michael Moore out of the Middle District of Georgia picked this case up as a full-blown investigation. That means something. If there was no activity after this civil disobedience, then my voice might be a little softer. But to know that this family has been consistently protesting out in front of this particular building, to know that when they did this act, the case was closed, and after that, it was opened on a federal level, that means something. So for all of those that point the finger and chastise this family, sit back and look at the timeline in this particular case. If nothing was there, it would have been dead a long time ago. So I applaud the Johnson family. I applaud everybody that's involved. I hope that they do not receive any type of punishment. But again, no matter what happens here tomorrow, it don't change the main goal, and that's to find out what happened to Kendrick Johnson and make all of those that were responsible held accountable.
The questions I want to ask you is a little different, maybe. Okay. What I want to know, were you not here about 2 years ago and stood on these steps in a protest march?
Yes, sir, I was.
And you made a promise, if I'm not correct, that you would return.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
And so you did return.
Yes, sir. I've been here.
And so
I've been here in the past 2.5 weeks. This is my 4th trip.
And I don't know if you followed the Quitman team.
Oh, yes, sir.
But their first trial with Lula Smart was only one black on that 12 jurors. Only one was black. It ended in a mistrial. The second trial was a mistrial, and it had, I think, was 2 blacks on it as well. We're still dealing in the same southern jurisdiction. The last trial, by acts of whatever, there was a majority black jury, and they, of course, acquitted Lula Smart, and of course eventually the state dropped all charges against the Quitman 10+2, who had been in that ordeal of lead voter fraud for approximately 4 years. And so as I listened to you talk a few minutes ago, there seems like you don't too much believe that they probably couldn't have picked a different ratio of jurors than this. What say you on that here?
Well, you know, when you see the pool that they selected from, I mean, it is predominantly white. I mean, I think there might have been less than 15 African Americans, and it was about 100 plus from the pool. So, I mean, the ratio of the pool that you pick from is so unbalanced that no matter where you pick, primarily or more times than not, you're going to pick someone that is non-African American. You know, there's a lot that feeds into why that pool is the way that it is.
Well, Marcus, during the Quitman 10+2, and I was the only one reported on that because 19 days, no news media recovered that. I was on somebody there.
That's right.
It was as if though they wanted to keep it hush-hush.
That's right.
After they found out possibly things wasn't going their way.
That's
but
right.
the question I want to ask is, they told us that the jury selection process had been changed wherein it's selected by a computer.
Okay.
So in Brooks County, the question was, what race is the computer? What say you about that question, my brother? I mean, I'm serious. This came out in the trial. I've already reported that.
That's a good question. What race do you think the computer is?
I think it's a combination of this and that. But
this and that.
but we are still on the downside.
Well, you know, we are still on the downside, and that's why we got to educate more brothers that they got to make sure. There were several names called of people that weren't present. I don't know the race of those individuals. That's why the big voter registration thing is such a big push in our community. I don't want to make any excuses for anybody, but again, when you have an unequal ratio, I mean, listen, you're going to lose. When I say lose, meaning that if you're looking for more African Americans, you've got to have an equal amount to pick from.
Okay, so I heard somebody in Quitman, they made a statement that black don't make it right and white don't make it right.
That's right.
But a tradition of doing right always make it right.
That's
and
right,
a tradition of wrong possibly always will result in something that is not as equal. Now, let me turn, and we're going to close. It's cold out here. Let me turn this a little bit. Let me turn this. I'm serious about this now. What's your name?
Marcus Coleman, sir.
Marcus Coleman. Who do you represent today? What organization or who do you stand? Who stands with you? Can you explain to me a little bit?
Well, yes, sir. I was happy to be able to start an organization that's called SOS. It stands for Save Ourselves. When I say that, a lot of people say ourselves is one word. I understand that. We have a capital O, capital S to make sure that the acronym is highlighted. But, you know, the funny thing is, man, there's in Atlanta, and even in the southeastern region, there is such a charged up base of youth. I mean, 30 and under. It's bigger than you. Shut It Down, ATL, Gen Y Project. And I've become somewhat of an elder in the game, but also respecting my elders, right? So, man, all the young folks are really standing with me, man. A lot of the elders, such as C.T. Vivian, Dr. Lowry, me and Reverend Sharpton are still cool.
Yes.
I'm enjoying being in this middle, Brother Ryan, to be honest with you. So I've got those that are the young soldiers that are on the battlefield right now, standing up, standing with me, and I stand with them. But then I also have my mentors, my mentors such as the historians that I spoke about, the civil rights living legends, that whenever I need any type of advice or wisdom, I can call on them. So, we just letting this journey take us wherever it takes us.
Okay, so you were the...
For the 2-year anniversary, there were a number of youngsters. Matter of fact, I think in the Valdosta-Lowndes it was reported I bought busloads of agitators. But there was also a heavy presence of people from National Action Network Atlanta. Listen, man, that's I'm the founder of that chapter, former president. I'm responsible for the acquisition of the Southeastern Regional Headquarters. I always have love for NAM. But I do think it was one of the best things I could have ever done was to start SOS, because I like to move, and I'm on that road, man. I'm on the plane. I like to move, and the freedom, you got to move when the movement moves, right? And the freedom minus some of the bureaucracy that's attached to those who really ain't doing the work, but just want to take pictures standing next to the man. They want photo ops. They might be good at reports, and there's nothing wrong. You got to be able to do put your pen to paper, but you got to also be able to put your feet to the pavement, right? So I'll be honest. Somebody asked me, man, what is it you really want to do, man? You want to run for office? You want to do this? You want to do that? I'm living, man. I'm living, and I'm walking a path without having to look down. So I'm enjoying, man. One thing I really like to consider. One thing I like to consider as a part of my journey is being a dot connector, being a generational connector, being a connector, whether it's religion. I'm just really trying to build an army, man. I really am, man. I mean, an army of politicians, an army of activists, an army of civil rights leaders, an army of your common folk, grassroots.
Let me ask you a question, my beautiful brother. And I mean this with everything that's within me, because I was reading online today, and they said that it seemed as if though they were trying to insinuate that you had a serious confrontation with the police during the demonstration, march the other day, and they also said that you was recorded, that somebody had a body camera, and they seemed to make a big thing out of it. I'm sure. What's your opinion on that? On what they're saying?
Hey,
short form, man. I know we can't go down that road.
Yeah, man. I had a brief confrontation, but nothing came of it. When you know the law and you know your rights and you stand your ground and you got the people with you, then you're gonna win most of the time.
All right. Well, Marcus, I really appreciate. First of all, I appreciate you being true to what you promised us up
man.
here.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I remember meeting you, brother. Yes, sir.
And I thank you so much, because there was probably 1,000 people.
Oh, man.
2,000.
It was deep.
It was deep, and you made a promise here, and I got it all recorded.
Yes, sir.
And you came back, and I must say that you are a man of your word. I want to appreciate you for being a soldier, a young soldier. I know you said older, but the people that I know, those are young people.
Yes, sir.
And you said something the other day, and let's address this issue, because let's do it on camera as men of understanding. I said something about, I wanted to say hands up, don't shoot. And you came back and you said you didn't believe in that. Now let's deal with that straight up, because of the fact that, because when you made that statement, I'm a person who weigh information. I went back and took that statement that you said and I weighed it. And I'm of a new mindset today.
I appreciate it.
I'm a convert. now don't get me wrong, I'm with you, is that those who use that, let them use that.
Yes.
But as we progress up the mountain,
Yes.
I see something now. If they're shooting us with our hands
Yes,
up or
sir.
down,
Yes, sir.
then why should we put our hands up unless we got something in them?
And listen, you know, I'm so glad because I didn't want us to have any kind of problem on that.
No, we're not going to have that,
I
brother.
appreciate that.
I learned something from Minister Louis Farrakhan. He may condemn me for that. I learned something from Minister Farrakhan in the 70s, and that been a part of me. Bobby Worthy tell me that he's implemented in his program. And that is, I'm not going to down you, more so because you're black, because our struggle is one and the same. And so what I'm going to do is elevate to where you at, or if I'm not capable of bringing you up, I will still level off.
Well, you know, as I was saying earlier, you know, there was a young brother by the name of Bobby back in the Panther movement that walked out of a house and was shot with his hands up.
Yes, sir.
There's a sister that's over in Cuba right now, Asada Shakur, that is public enemy #1 or fugitive #1, and for what we know are falsified charges. But in that turnpike, she had her hands up. I mean, Mike Brown, Quentin Terrell out in Wichita. I mean, I can give you a number of people that were severely injured or killed with their hands up. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm telling people not to comply.
Right.
But when you are in the face of danger at these protests now, out in Berkeley, you had hundreds of white children with their hands up and billy clubs being jammed in their ribs. I'm just a firm believer in self-protection. It doesn't mean that I don't comply, but I'll be damned if I'm going up to a man in a submissive position for nothing when I've got brothers and sisters that have already been killed like that. You know, the die-ins.
Yes, sir.
I support the hands up movement because it galvanizes the people.
Yes, sir.
The die-ins, I support it because it galvanizes the people. But again, I'll be damned, even though I respect it. But it is for that generation. I'm just a little too old to lay down on the ground. We took over the Fox Theater in Atlanta not too long ago. About 100 did a die-in. I stayed up. Well, some of the employees from Fox Theater decided, well, screw these little black folks, and a lot of them were white, and just started to step on our people. Now, of course, the die-ins are symbolic to the bodies that have been lost, so I understand that, but, you know, I'm always careful when I talk about the die-ins or the hands up, because I don't ever want somebody to think I don't appreciate and respect it. I think that is great for this particular group. But while y'all doing that, we're gonna make sure everything's all right over here.
And one of the greatest, I watched the movie Selma.
Yes, sir.
And I say to myself, only if Martin Luther King, Malcolm, and Elijah,
But crucial.
and the Black Panthers and others had came together as a team, dropped their differences and marched on up to the mountaintop and shook hands with Dr. King when he said, I have a dream. They just may have inspired Dr. King to ream out from that dream a new reality. And that new, go ahead,
If that happened, then we might not even be speaking right now.
Absolutely,
Everything would been all good.
And so when I made that statement about hands up and you came at me, you came back after because you had something in you that I liked. You said, brother, did I offend you?
Yes,
You
sir.
reminded me of Louis Farrakhan
Oh,
in
thank
his
you, sir.
humility.
Thank
He
you.
said, brother, did I offend you? I said, no, brother, you did not offend me. I said, you want to talk? I said, no. Because now I said I didn't want to talk about it because I knew right off that I'm moving on to the next level.
That's
and that's
right.
what I want in life.
Well-
So my beautiful brother, I want to leave you by saying this, and you can close this out, but I want to leave this with you.
Yes, sir.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. All power to the people.
Right on. Power to
Yes,
the
sir.
people, brother.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
is the
sir.
Getto Free Press. George Boss Ryan. Do what I do because I love to be done. Greetings. Before the death of Kendrick Johnson at Lowndes County High School on January the 10th, 2013, the body was found January 11th, 2013. Before that time, I had never, let me repeat, I had never been under a criminal trespass of any kind in Valdosta-Lowndes County, the state of Georgia, or in the United States of America. I served 2 tours of duty at Moody Air Force Base. I am a retired military veteran with many decorations, commendation medal. But only after the death of Kendrick Johnson was I placed on this criminal trespass warning without notification or justification. No one in the state of Georgia, no one in the federal government has said anything about me being placed under such an order, yet never issued any documentation of any sort. In Meigs, Georgia, the people that received a criminal trespass was given a pink form to show that they were under such an order. I violated no law. I'm gonna put a pin in that. The next video will give you the rest of the story. Now let's get down to business. We have noticed here in Valdosta, Georgia, the death of a 17-year-old Lowndes County High School student that fell into a mat. They say, yet Kenneth and Jacqueline and Eddie Tooley, the grandfather, and Sister English, the grandmother, was not even permitted by the Lowndes County Sheriff Department at the time they found Kendrick's body. They were not permitted to ID their own child. Now, because I'm not Kenneth, I'm not Jacqueline, I'm not Eddie Tooley, I'm not Mother English, the grandmother. So I don't know how that feels. But I would like to put the question to you. Black America, brown America, red Americans, white Americans, and others, how would you feel if in your county you were told that you could not ID your child who had just been found dead? That's a question. In addition to that, if it was published in your only daily newspaper, what if it was on television and radio that it was a tragic accident? What if you was told that your son was in the gym alone and that he fell reaching for his shoe? If you had a funeral, and since there's over 3,000, maybe plus students at the Lowndes County High School, and if your child died, and if they were a star athlete, wouldn't you expect for maybe some of his white peers or some of his Japanese peers or the educators or the officers and administrators in that school to at least come by your house or Kenneth and Jacqueline's house to show some level of sympathy, condolence, etc., etc.? to your child? Would you not expect that the superintendent, maybe as an act of courtesy, to come to your home and spend more than 2 to 3 or 4 minutes, or at least say something, or some educator or some coaches come even in mass numbers, maybe 4 or 5 or 10, to say something? What if your child died and you thought that there was very little news coverage, and so you called the same night you found your child, you called St. George Boston Rhymes, and when you called me, I come over as I did with the father and began to talk to him, and then he tell me that they killed my son. And people know that the same camera that I have here, that I use it to show irregularities in voting rights for black folk over in Willacoochee, Georgia, Brooks County, meeting July the 17th of 2013, and it was never televised or reported to the general public. Or when I travel to Jacksonville, or when I travel to Bentonville, Arkansas, or when I travel to right here in the local area to uncover what some thought was covered. The point I'm about to make on that point is this. And so because I report what others may refuse to report, that they put me under a nearly 300 days pretty soon criminal trespass that bans me from all Lowndes County High School property. Can't even go to a Board of Education meeting. Can't even go to a Lowndes County football game. And I have violated no law. I have gone to the Sheriff's Department, Criminal Investigative Department, Probate Court, Superior Court, Federal Court, District Attorney David Miller's office, and nothing is in black and white on this black African-American. No, not African-American. This black man. I can't say African-American because Africa is not the name of that continent. That name, Africa, was assigned to a white European general that went in and murdered, slaughtered, and killed black people in Africa. So we cannot take pride in something that we did not know yesterday. But today, we know better. And when you know better, according to Bishop John F. Donaldson, my pastor, and Bishop years ago, the late Bishop saying, when you know better, then you do better. Now in conclusion, to the black man and woman, in particular, and to all white right people, it is incumbent upon us to help save this nation. It is incumbent upon us to let the world know that Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, and others may be patriots, and they may be Christians of the new dispensation. But we have another criteria that was laid down by what the Europeans called Jesus. This man called Jesus saying, let me repeat, this man called Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That means to want for your neighbor that which you want and have for yourself. That means if you want white children safe, if you want white children educated, if you want white children to stay out of jails and prisons, if you want white children to occupy all the jobs at Office Max, or the hardware stores, or to be all the waitresses at the restaurants here in Valdosta-Lowndes County, then if you're a Christian, in the sense of what you say Jesus taught, then you should flip those jobs every year and let black folk be the majority at Office Max and the hardware stores where whites most have all the jobs. You don't have to take my word for it. Walk around town, go into your restaurants, look around and see who have the jobs. And we understand your concept. You want the most qualified. And that's a good thing, that you don't want people that are unqualified. So hire the white people that are most qualified. Get the black people who are most qualified, the Japanese, the Germans, and et cetera, et cetera. But just remember, if no blacks, or no whites, or no Japanese, or no Germans, or no Indians from India are qualified, then don't try to get our qualified dollars. Don't train any of those people so you won't have to worry about getting any of our unqualified dollars. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. First of all, let me make it clear. I do not support boycotts. I don't like boycotts. Nobody should boycott any establishment. I'm against all boycotts. So put me on record. I'm probably the first black man you ever heard say that. I do not believe in boycotts. What I believe in is self-respect. And self-respect is, if you go to Office Max or Home Depot or the hardware stores, and if you don't see no blacks in there, don't boycott. Just keep your money in your pocketbook or in your wallet. I'm not for boycott. I'm asking you to be intelligent. I'm saying to you, help keep your black boys out of prison. If they won't hire them in these establishments, then don't spend your dollars there. Don't boycott them.
I see angels. I see angels everywhere.
This is the Getto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Ryan. Today is November 11, 2013. Day that have been set aside for veterans of the United States of America. Even the Lowndes County High School have tribute of a flag in honoring those who have served this beloved nation of ours. I am a retired military veteran after 21 years of the United States Armed Forces. Yet I have been under a 180-day unjustified criminal trespass warning. No city official, no county official, no state official, no one from the federal government, including Eric Holder's office, have said anything to me, a veteran, and I violated no law. I am restricted from going on any property of the Lowndes County High School and perhaps Lowndes County in general. If this video seems a little crooked, it's done to show you that something is crooked here in the city and county and possibly the state of Georgia in 2013. As you will see in the next video, I am going to highlight for you what has happened to me, a retired military veteran. I'm going to talk to you and show you the straight up truth. I am not going to cover anything up. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to duplicate or complicate anything. I'm going to show you the truth. And I want to add, before we go into the next video, that the Valdosta Daily Times article concerning the death of Kendrick Johnson. I want to thank the editor, P. Harris, for finally getting around to reporting the beef of what has been reported by the Honorable Victor Blackwell from CNN television. Now, the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney David Miller's office, had some words that they had to digest from the father of the young 17-year-old Lowndes County High School student that was found dead January 11, 2013. And he said that the Sheriff's Department and that District Attorney David Miller and at the Lowndes County Judicial Complex, that they convict people all the time in that facility. And he said, should not they be held accountable when they lie? He went further to say, in the Valdosta Daily Times, I'm talking about Kendrick Johnson, father of KJ. Should not they be accountable for the lies that they have told? Now, just Google Kendrick Johnson death, and you will see the lies that he is proclaiming that members of law enforcement have said. He said, should not they be held accountable for the corruption here in Valdosta and Lowndes County? Kenneth also went further to say, how come when they tell us lies, they want us to just take it? He said, they want us to just take their lies and say nothing. The father also said that they may be accustomed to covering up and treating people in Valdosta wrong. But he said they picked the wrong family this time. He said they picked the wrong family. And I'm just going to say to you that had not Mr. Kendrick, let me repeat that, had not the Honorable Kenneth Johnson and the Honorable wife Jackie, grandmother, Sister English, the grandfather Eddie Tooley, had they not said anything, there would not have been any consideration of looking into why they were not allowed to view the remains of their son. There would not have been any questions about the medics, the paramedics saying it was a crime scene, and the sheriff saying it was an accident scene. There would have been no mention of this young man's organs being missing. Nothing about his clothes being missing. Nothing about his fingernails being clipped or manicured. You wouldn't have heard anything about any of that.
Day makes 11 months my son was found at Lowndes High School, rolled up in a mat. I was at that school the day they found my son. They treated us like nobody from day one. They're still treating us like nobody. But we declare that we're here to stay. We ain't going nowhere. They want us to leave, and when we leave, it's gonna be when they give us justice for my son.
Amen.
want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting our family. But I want to know, they are known to use us and tear down our character. But Kendrick, that they can't do.
Amen.
Kendrick was at school where he was supposed to be.
Amen.
And out of 3,000 students, plus teachers, plus a school with resource officers at the school.
Yes.
How in the world can a student go missing during school and be murdered at school?
My mind.
As you all know, his organs was missing. But let me tell you a little bit about that. It's from the top of his head to his pelvis was missing. Yeah, the brain, his windpipe, his tongue, his heart, and everything else inside of his body was missing.
My Lord.
So I want the justice system to tell me, how is it that all of that is going on with his body, someone is not charged with something?
Amen. Yeah.
It can't be.
My God. Cannot be.
You mean to tell me, from the time he was last seen on that surveillance camera, within 15 or 20 minutes, he gonna cut off all of his fingernails till they start to bleed. He gonna scroll his photos around the gym. He gonna throw the shoe over inside the mat and say, I think I'll go over there and get it now. So how is it one shoe inside the mat and the other one's away from the mat? And then he gets inside the mat, gets stuck, and then I guess the pair of shoes that he had on his feet, he kicks them off.
Makes no sense.
How can that be?
Because it's a lie.
It's a lie.
And other than that, the clothes that he had, what he dressed out in, how's the data missing? From the clothes he had on, from when they took him to make him to the crime lab, how come that they are missing? So out of all this stuff that's going on, why isn't someone arrested for something?
Amen. How long?
So is it the whole system in together? Because it ain't no way in the world that y'all don't see something. Thank you.
KJ! Who killed KJ? Come on! Who killed KJ? Who killed KJ? Thank you. KJ! All right.
Today makes 11 months my son was found at Lowndes High School, rolled up in a mat. I was at that school the day they found my son. They treated us like nobody from day one. They're still treating us like nobody. But we declare that we're here to stay. We ain't going nowhere. They want us to leave, and when we leave, it's going to be when they give us justice for my son.
Amen.
When I was a little boy, there was a lot of love. Love between brothers and sisters, neighbors and friends. There was so much love until I thought that love would never end. But today, as I look around me, I see so much hatred and killing everywhere. So if you got someone that loves you, I'll tell you today, you better love them back.
So now we must ask a question. Why is it that things are so one-sided here in the state of Georgia? And why is it that it's taking so long? And why is it that they gotta investigate so much before Attorney Michael Moore can come down and do what ought to have been done a long time ago? And now, because they've waited so long, and because of the historic alleged corruption and unreported news, now people are telling me that they are questioning Michael Moore's investigation, and will it mean any more than the words that we've already heard? But I say to the people, this particular case, along with the many other cases, have gotten so deep now that I don't even know that Eric Holmes of a higher level could calm the tension in the white cloud that's over this community. This community have already lost confidence in those in law enforcement, those in the Southern judiciary, including the judges. And so, when that happened in a so-called civilized society that is crooked, we can't get them to stand up straight. And when you do stand up straight, they make you look crooked. When you, as a retired military veteran, stand up for what's right, they make you look like you the one that's crooked, when they are the one that's crooked. But because of the deep fear in Valdosta, many citizens will not speak because they live in fear. But I am determined that sooner or later, God's word will be revealed, wherein he said, ye shall know the truth, and only the truth is gonna set you free. And so, you're gonna see in the next few videos, raw talk, nothing but raw talk, because it is indeed time to straighten up and straighten out Valdosta and Lowndes County. The ones who are crooked, they know they're crooked. It's just that the people don't have a voice, don't have a media that will tell their story. And because of that, our world has been distorted, and it looks straight to the wicked, but to the righteous, we see it as crooked as it is. And the question is, who will be brave enough, courageous enough, upright enough, righteous enough to be able to stand and let the world know that unless we stand up for what is right in God's world, then we are going down the road of destruction, and we are going pretty fast. I just come to say to you, there's something wrong in Valdosta and Lowndes County. Our world, our city is one-sided, and when will we make it right? This is the Getto Free Press, KYRC, which means Know Your Rights campaign. You have a right to tell your story and not to bottle it up all up on the inside until you end up having a stroke, heart attack, or death. Bye-bye. We got it. Yes, yes, yes. It is indeed amazing how any citizen in Valdosta and Lowndes County could be placed, restricted, without violating any law. Not in Russia, not in China, some of the third world communist nation, but here in Valdosta, Georgia, home of Moody Air Force Base, a federal installation that I served 2 tours of duty. And I was a veteran, or rather an active duty military person, before I became a veteran. During the Vietnam era and many other conflicts in my lifetime. Yet, after the death of Kendrick Johnson on January 10th, 2013, just maybe that was the reason why I was banned. So the question remains in the minds of the father Kenneth and his wife Jacqueline and other family members that the death of their son at Lowndes County High School was, number 1, according to the sheriff, an accident, or number 2, by the father and mother, that maybe it was a murder, or maybe number 3, a fight or a homicide, or number 4, many just don't know. But because of the restrictions, the impediments put before that family and this community, questions have arisen about an alleged botched autopsy, the crime scene being compromised, according to the Lowndes County coroner, who should indeed know. The first responders on the site of where that body was found, the EMTs said that it was a crime scene. The sheriff said it was an accident scene. But just maybe because of my small camera reporting what others ignore, that may be the reason why this military veteran on this Veterans Day for 2013 cannot even go to a Lowndes County football game. So I have been banned, restricted from all Lowndes County games on Lowndes County school property here in the city of Valdosta, Georgia. Yet, no elected official, I'll state again, no elected official in the city, in the county, in the state of Georgia, or in Washington, D.C. have even contacted me. And so when we hear our elected officials say they respect and that they love the military veterans, use what has happened to me as justifications to say that they are liars and the truth are not in them. For if they cared about our men and women in uniform, then they would respond to me, an upright citizen in this community. My record is stellar clean. They have nothing about drugs on me, nothing about a DUI, nothing about a traffic violation, nothing about domestic violence, nothing about abusing children, nothing about going on property that I was restricted from. And so this is why I will not go on any Lowndes County school property, because I have it on record that I am indeed under a valid Lowndes County Sheriff Department criminal trespass warning that is approved by the state of Georgia although there's no judge, no affidavit, no certified letter, no notarized statement, nothing with my signature of acknowledgement, not even a good verbal outside of Sheriff Thomas on May 25th. And at that time, do you not know that they said that I had already been under that criminal trespass warning for 2 weeks? 2 weeks, and I didn't know nothing about it? That means that if I had gone on Lowndes County school property, some Lowndes County Sheriff Deputy or a law enforcement member or the G.B.R. or FBI, hell, I don't know, could have arrested me for violating a criminal trespass warning that I knew absolutely nothing about. Now, some people are saying, get a lawyer, retain a lawyer, and take them to court. Permit me to say this to you. In January of 1971, I went to the federal building in Atlanta, and I took the military test, and I passed it to go in any branch of the armed forces during the Vietnam War. And I was qualified to enlist, to fight and die for this nation in time of war. And I never, let me repeat, like all other active duty, like all disabled veterans, like all veterans that ever served in the United States Armed Forces to fight both foreign and domestic enemies. Let me repeat, they never had to acquire a lawyer to fight for them, to go fight and die for this nation. So why should I have to get a lawyer to prove that I am under an unlawful criminal trespass warning for 180 days without any justification or notification? And so if I could fight in Vietnam, if I could fight in Kuwait, if I could fight in Iran, if I could fight in Afghanistan without going to a lawyer to get the right to fight and die for this country, then why do I have to get an attorney to say to West Taylor or the Sheriff's Department, what in heaven are you doing to citizens' rights here in the United States of America? Do you indeed have a cover-up in the Kendrick Johnson case that you don't want exposed? And it went to the degree of denying me my constitutional rights because you knew that somebody in the capital of Georgia would not support a veteran. Did you know that somebody in Eric Holden's office, the Secretary of the Justice Department, would not come against you? Did you know that the Lowndes County Sheriff Crime would not go against you, but they would fight against a military veteran that served his nation with commendation medals and other service medals, but you don't care nothing about the common man in the United States of America when it comes down to citizenship rights? And so I'm going to continue to say on behalf of the veterans, the active duty, and common citizens that our Constitution should mean more than just black ink on white paper. We must stand up and say to the government, because if they have done it to me, and they have, then ask yourself a question. How many of our young children are now in jail and prisons under a criminal trespass warning that somebody say they violated and they didn't know nothing about it? Listen, I'm sure that I'm not the first one, but I am maybe the last one, because I'm not going to stop, because if I could die again, in Vietnam, if I was willing to die in Kuwait, if I was willing to die in Afghanistan, and if I'm willing to die wherever my commanding officer called me to go fight, then should I not fight here in the homeland of the United States of America? Superintendent Wes Taylor said to my friend who went to the superintendent because he's not restricted, and he asked Wes Taylor, what do you have on George Boston Rhines? He said, I did not file a criminal trespass warning against George Boston Rhines. Yet on the radio, I have the Lowndes County Sheriff radio through Sheriff Deputy Thomas radio saying on to the world, and I got it posted on YouTube, that Wes Taylor of the Lowndes County High School issued and restricted me from this property. That is a matter of record. And when I went to Sheriff Prime, he said, I don't know of any criminal trespass warning against you, but I will check in the record and I will find out. And if it is, I will get back with you. 180 days have passed, and the sheriff haven't said nothing to this black man, have said nothing to this black veteran, said nothing to this black father, said nothing to this 14-year-old business owner in this community, said nothing to this black former president of the NAACP and other civil rights and women's rights organizations. Yet they boldly do what they want, and we are supposed to suck it up. But thank God for people like Kendrick Johnson and his wife and his family who are questioning the G.B.R. and the federal government, including Michael Moore's office, because if he don't get justice and if he don't do a thorough investigation, only God knows, listen, only God knows what could happen in Valdosta and Lowndes County, because people are tired and they are sick and tired of being tired. We have 31 jail deaths from 94 to 2009, and it seemed like that's a cover-up. And from 2009 to 2013, nobody's talking about it. That too seemed to be a cover-up. That too seemed to raise question in terms of why the governor of the state of Georgia, why is it that the Southern Judiciary, why is it that the Honorable Judge Hugh Lawson, who ruled in 97, identified 105 violations in the Lowndes County Jail, but never followed up on his own court order? At that time, only 3 inmates had died, and since then, nothing has been done. And it seemed like the people in Valdosta and Lowndes County don't give a heaven. Don't give a heaven. Look, I haven't finished yet. A 14-year-old middle school student, female, black, at Pine Grove Middle School was tackled by a sheriff deputy, weighed over 200 and some pounds. This mother and father's daughter didn't weigh 100 pounds, and yet handcuffed, charged with hitting or striking an educator. The educators gave letters stating that it never happened. Then when they went to juvenile court before the judges, they lost the case, and now they too are saying there's something very, very wrong in Valdosta and Lowndes County, Georgia. Now I know that people don't want us to talk like this, but at some time we got to say to the world that if we are not concerned about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of the press, and did you not know that after 180 days, no South Georgia news media care enough about citizenship rights or about my constitutional rights? The Valdosta Daily Times, Kay Harris, I repeat, the Valdosta Daily Times, Valdosta only daily newspaper, the editor, Kay Harris, the Honorable Kay Harris, have never published this in the Valdosta Daily Times. All the television stations, not one, have said anything about my criminal trespass warning. That is a violation of my constitutional rights. And so on Veterans Day, I want to give you the truth and highlight of the day. That 14-year-old girl gave her case, her mother did, to all television stations, to all the newspapers, to Kay Harris, and nothing has been reported to the general public. And so they don't know nothing about it. And so now that KJ death is bringing truthful light and truthful venom on this area, they are mad and they are criticizing Victor Blackwell of CNN. But if Victor Blackwell had not come into Valdosta-Lowndes County in South Georgia, KJ's death would have just been another Negro dead, like the many hundreds of others that have been covered up, swept under the rug. And the Justice Department, Eric Holder, he get our videos, he get our tapes, including those from the Quitman 10, and they do absolutely nothing. They do absolutely nothing. The news media failed to report it. No 60 Minutes, no 48 Hours, no Dateline, not even your line, not 2020. Nobody will report our news. And so they keep making fools out of us to fight these heavenly wars while they are taking advantage of us. We have chemtrails being sprayed in our atmosphere. And that too is a cover-up. Why don't they tell the American people about the chemtrails and the aluminum that we breathe, taking into our lungs, going into our veins, going into our heart, going into our brain, from which Alzheimer's is said to possibly come from. But they won't even tell you about that. And so they make KJ parents seem like they're crazy when they say there's a cover-up in their son's death. Well, there was a cover-up back in 1918. And let me close. Let me close on this Veterans Day. I just want to say to you, if we don't wake up in this country, what happened to me is going to soon be happening to you and your children. You can call me crazy, you can strike out at me, and you can make it hard for me to get a job if I wanted one. But there's one thing you cannot do. You cannot alter St. John 8:32. Ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free. Now, this is an open challenge to any of the names that I've called, to any of the law enforcement agencies that I've called. If you can refute, if you can disapprove anything that I said, and one thing that I did not say, I'm going to say now. If you can disapprove me about the taser death on May 8, 2010, that a former inmate looked under the door and saw they tased this man, and he died, and nothing was published, nothing is said about it. Judge Turner, the clerk of the court, was notified about it, and they never said nothing. And I have asked the sheriff department 2 or 3 times about that death, and the sheriff said absolutely nothing. So now, just maybe, what God said will be made a reality. And that is, heaven and earth would pass away, but my word of truth will stand forever. What I have spoken cannot be returned to God without God dealing with the truth that I've spoken and the truth that others have spoken, but the news media wouldn't report it, and our elected officials didn't care. But there's a new day among us, and I believe that it all gonna come out, and it all gonna come out behind what happened here at Lowndes County High School when they denied me the right of my freedom of movement, and they denied the Kendrick Johnson family the right to even view the death and the body of their son. It's a new day, it's a new day. And as you can see, they got a flag, they say, honoring veterans, but they fail to realize that I am a veteran. And they lied on me. The governor of the state of Georgia haven't said boo. Georgia Attorney General haven't said boo. Georgia Secretary of State haven't said boo. Lowndes County Sheriff Department haven't said boo. Mayor Gale or the council nor the Board of Commissioners have said boo. The same thing happened to me could definitely happen to you. And I'm here to say to the world that sooner or later, they can do what they want to me, but sooner or later, God gonna have the last word. Look at that, the flag of the United States. I wore that flag on my uniform. I pledged allegiance to that flag. And then they turn around and tell me that you're under a criminal trespass warrant. How sick can we get? To the people in Russia, to the people in China, to the people in Iraq, to the people in Iran. What say you? What say you? Do you have a better glimpse of what democracy means now? And look, this just me. There are many other young people that are now serving time in jails and on probation. All I can say to you is, this is the Ghetto Free Press. We want you to know the truth because God ordains a different. Bye-bye.
And we're not going to rest until some form of justice arrives. I am so thankful to join this cadre of leadership in our community that is here today to say that the struggle is not over. We must continue. And I will be there with you, and I'm certainly pleased and honored to lend my voice to this effort and do all that I can.
So much love.
We don't have a moment to lose because any of our children could be in the same situation. Any one of us right here now. Therefore, we must create a different climate. And that's what we're going to do. Thank you, and God bless you.
Martin, if they want to do their homework, the website is gov.ga.gov. That's where you reach the governor. That's his email. Do your homework.
We the people.
We remember in the Bible when it tells the story, we hung our harps on the willow tree, as those who held us captive required of us to sing a song. And we ask, how can we sing a song in a strange land? But nonetheless, we're joined by a young lady, Lydia Tooley Whitlock, who is the cousin of KJ. And she comes this morning to sing a song in a strange land, under strange circumstances. Let's welcome this sister as she comes and share with us out of the depths of her heart and soul.
I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't borrow from its sunshine. For the skies may turn to gray. I don't worry about my future. For I know what Jesus said. And today He walks beside me, for He knows what lies ahead. Many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand. I know who
Oh, y'all can do better than that. Let's give her a big round of applause. Where would we be if it not had been for the Lord on our side? We have joining us now a preacher who understands that the gospel of Jesus Christ has to be a liberating force. Not only that you have to speak truth to power, and that you have to preach the truth in season and out of season. He's the senior pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church. Let's welcome to this podium your pastor and my pastor, the Reverend Raphael Warnock.
Yes. Preach. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. Injustice anywhere. Repeat after me. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Say, I am Kendrick Johnson. I am Kendrick Johnson. I am Kendrick Johnson. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. I had to get up this morning at 4 a.m. and get on a plane to get back to Atlanta because there's no other place I need to be and we need to be in a moment like this than right here on this spot. I am a pastor, and so like all of the pastors here, Dr. Durley and others who are here, we have the sad duty often to preside over funerals. We are there often when people say goodbye to their loved ones. We are familiar with pain, acquainted with grief. But there is no grief as great as that which occurs when nature is reversed. And rather than the child burying the parent, the parent has to bury the child. That is a painful situation under any circumstances. It is painful when it is the result of nature, when it is natural causes. But we are very clear this morning when we look at the larger picture of this case that in some fashion or another we are clearly dealing with the tragedy of unnatural causes.
Come on now, preach.
That is to say that the state of Georgia and the city of Valdosta and the county of Lowndes can do better than what we have seen so far. And I don't know about you, my sisters and brothers, but I am sick and tired of having to fight and protest and march to receive what ought to be mine as an American citizen. We've been here before. Matter of fact, we've been here too many times. Not long ago, we were engaged and we continue to be engaged in the struggle around our brother Trayvon Martin. And as we think about Trayvon Martin and we think about Kendrick Johnson, the picture of Emmett Till is somewhere always in our memory. And we have a clear sense of history because we are clear that those who do not remember their history are destined to repeat it. And so we say to the state of Georgia that the lives of all of our children matter. That black life is as valuable as white life. That all of our children matter. Say that with me, all of our children matter. Say truth matters. The facts matter. And so that's why we're here. We're here because we will not be satisfied until we get to the facts of this case. Now, because we are engaged in this, and because our hearts are bleeding over the loss of Kendrick Johnson, there are those who would seek to reduce our struggle to empty emotionalism. But the truth is, it is the facts, it is the hard, cold data that has brought us here. Plain, good old-fashioned common sense. Come on, help yourself now. Summons us here this morning. How in the world is it that a strong and vibrant young man in the prime of life, a brilliant athlete, not in one sport or two sports, but three sports, manages to climb inside of a rolled-up mattress looking for a sneaker and ends up dead? It defies logic. It defies science. It defies common sense. And if you don't want to listen to a Baptist preacher on this point, listen to the coroner. The coroner says that when we arrived, the investigative climate was very cold. He said that the body had been standing dry. The scene has been compromised. Lord, God Almighty, so I can feel. Yes, I can. I said I can. Lord, oh, I can feel. I can feel it. I can feel the pain. Yes, I can. They locked up one of our black sisters not long ago. Angela Davis was her name. Oh, yeah. They said they handcuffed her and they took off to jail. Oh, yes, they did. And I want to say, I wasn't there, but I can. Yeah, Lord, I can. My. Oh, I can feel it. Oh, I can feel it. I can feel the pain. Oh, yeah. I wasn't there when they shot Malcolm X. Oh, I can feel it. I can feel the pain. Oh, Lord. I've never been a slave.